Okay.
Okay.
So it is live now.
Okay. I will just start discussing what I think makes a good leader. And some things I think make a good leader is that they will utilize emotions at all organization levels. In the text, it mentions five emotional competencies, which is perception, appraisal, attending to the emotions of others, emotional facilitation of thinking, understanding and analyzing emotional information and applying that information, and then living with those emotions. And another quality I think is they should use positive images. They should be ethical in whatever they're doing in the environment, and communication should always be there. And I think a good leader would lead by example. And just has good values and objectives for the company and the followers. And of course, to have a positive attitude. And some things that I think make a bad leader would be what was listed in the text. I think it's like pages like 15 to 17, but um, I think a bad leader would be selfish and only think of things that benefit them. Incompetent, would not have any experience and probably shouldn't be a leader and be having followers follow what they think is right if they have no experience. And then callous, just not caring about anyone. And I think doing that could really hurt an image of an organization. And corrupt also, just lying and just doing things for the benefit of themselves as well. And should I give an example of that right now, or should we just go through example
Um,
now?
sure, you can.
Okay, so an example that I would have would be incompetent. Currently, leadership in my workplace, what happened was an individual ended up leaving the company and they moved the current leader that is my management into just someone that's making decisions and stuff who has no experience. So that's where I link it back to incompetence. Competent, just having no experience and not. I don't really want to follow someone that has no experience because I don't think that they would be leading me or my group in the right direction. So that's an example that I have. And I guess it's Luther's turn now.
Hello. Uh, Great. So for I think the strong qualities that make for a strong leader, it's kind of a formula for me of commanding authority, but also mixed with the right amount of empathy and being able to provide structure as well as freedom for your employees to work. Uh, and really having that right mixture. So, and I think those qualities are kind of aligned with a theory Y style leader that was talked about in the text. And one of the examples from the book about the university in Alabama, something that really stuck out about that as far as what makes a good leader is kind of, I forget the guy's name, I had it in my notes somewhere, but when the new head of that university stepped in to help them fix their money problems, he really, put his money where his mouth is, so to speak. And when they discussed how he embodied the principles of the organization, it really creates an atmosphere where people want to rally behind someone um, and follow them, like they want to follow somebody like that. And I think that that's a really good example of being a successful leader. And it also provides an example of how he was able to kind of command authority. People wanted to follow him because he was putting it on the line. He wasn't just telling people what to do and hoping that they would, just follow him because of, what he said. And another thing that's important to me, or what I think is really important for a successful leader, is empathy. Being able to, connect with your employees or more interpersonal leadership as opposed to task leadership. And another example of that for me personally is, or something that I say in my experience working with teams and kind of managing a team, is knowing when to push, knowing when to pull. And by that I mean if you pull for your team and advocate for them in the things that they need, and instead of pushing them all the time to deliver what you need, as opposed to success for the team, you'll get more out of it. So the more you pull for your team, the more that they will allow you to push them in real times of need. Does that make sense? Uh, and so leaders that or qualities that make a bad leader, in my opinion, would kind of counter that.
Luther, I'm gonna cut you off just because of time.
Okay.
We've got about like 5 minutes left, so I want to give a couple opportunities for other people to talk. But you had really good point.
Thanks.
So I'll go next. So good qualities for a good leader are good communication. The text talked about circular communication rather than like linear. So that just, in my interpretation, means that it's really important for leaders to communicate well enough that their parties are able to understand what they're trying to communicate, and not just assuming that people actually got what the message meant, because there can be a lot of miscommunication that way. Another thing would be making sure, or a leader is good when they're visionary leaders, like they help others see what they want them to see. And this is true in leadership because oftentimes leaders will actually try to reinforce their vision by acting out what they want other people to do, and managers don't do that necessarily. Bad leadership would be selfishness, and then another one that I really have a good example for is incompetent leadership, and that's not being able to communicate effectively. I once had a manager that I would try to communicate and ask him a work-related question, and he would just ignore me. And I mean, he offered no feedback whatsoever, and that just had no leadership whatsoever. So, okay, and then we'll go on to Maggie.
Okay, I found it really interesting that the idea of leadership has changed so much over time. I think we learned that who was born as a leader, and I think we're learning that anybody can truly be a leader, and it's the leadership skills, and that's the person that can adapt to different situations and communicate effectively with their followers and others that truly makes somebody a good leader. I laughed about some of the definitions that we had in our text, that people used to think that if you were taller, you were a good leader, and I thought, well, at 5'10", that would be the best. But that's not reality. I mean, there's so many things that make a good leader, right? And it's not just who you are, it's how you interact with people. I also found it pretty interesting that one of the examples they gave was President Ulysses S. Grant. He was known as being a great leader when it came to military prowess, but when it came to being a president, he wasn't looked at as being very positive. So I think leaders can be strong in certain skills and certain traits, and I think it just really depends. And I hate that answer of it depends, but I think that really has to apply in this case. And I think you all gave really good examples, and I think it's terrible when you ask them a question, Megan, and they can't even give you a good answer. So I think a leader has to acknowledge people no matter whether or not they have the answer or not, and if they don't, to help them find out what that answer could be. So that's what I think. And now I think it is your turn.
So, well, I agree a lot with what Luther said about leadership, that there has to be the right mixture of somebody who has empathy and can connect with the people that they're leading, but also, you know, they're tough and they're able to create a structure, kind of keep people in line, and there's like a fine line between the two. And it's hard for, I think it's hard for people to be good leaders because it's hard to find the right balance. Examples of bad leadership would be someone who can't control their emotions, and actually my boss now is one of those people. he kind of just explodes and says whatever is on his mind, and he gets kind of crazy. So I have lots of examples of bad leadership at work. But yeah, I don't know, how much time do I have?
You have about 40 seconds.
So yeah, but I guess dealing with his bad leadership, I guess, is helping me become a better one.
That's
I'm not
true.
really sure what to say about that.
I
I'm
would.
learning from his mistakes.
I did want to interject, if you will allow. Just, I think it's interesting too how his emotional outbursts have contributed to what makes him a bad leader. But I think sometimes also showing your human side to your employees and your subordinates, it doesn't necessarily mean you're showing weakness. It shows them that you're one of them. You know, so
Yeah, true.
Okay. Well, we're up for time today. Okay. So I'm gonna stop the broadcast, and then I'll kind of see like if we can edit it or whatever. But it was nice to meet all of you, and then I'll just meet you in the little chat room or whatever.
Thank you for putting it all out, Megan.
I know. Thank
I'm sorry it took me so long.
no, not at all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, at least we'll get it better for next time, right?
Right.
Okay.